Yo, what's up, everyone? Is everyone as excited as I am right now? Gypsy here, bringing to you the Caravan Brawl, the long-awaited show match. Uh, Basically, we're gonna have two of the greatest players of all time. But all right, the players are already in the game. I'm gonna get some of that. We're gonna talk about this in a sec here. Just gotta get back into this scene. All right, my introduction was definitely cut short there, guys, but who cares? Who cares about that? I just gotta set some stuff up here. All right. So in the top left corner here, we have the one and only eOnzErG, the current foreign Bonjour. I mean, really, this guy needs no introduction. He's just such a great player right now. I would almost say that he's basically the Neo Mondragon, really, of foreign StarCraft. Every time you see this guy in any tournament, he's either a favorite to win it or already won it, you know? So, just really excited to have eOnzErG play on, this week, basically. But bottom right, first of all, is going to be TT1. Basically the Gosu in hiding. He's like one of these master, like those types of masters that you see in movies that are like the hidden masters of the ninja of the star. I don't know how else to say it, but basically he's always in hiding. He's there training noobs up and stuff. But we all know that he has a very high skill level, so exciting to see it on display this week. And we're going to see here, so the map is Overwatch, and honestly, this map, I think, is pretty good for Protoss. Zerg, there's not too many bases for Zerg to take, it's kind of hard to play a turtle style here. You kind of have to play Hydras and play aggressively, so I would say this is pretty good for Protoss. And we see here a gateway expand here for the Protoss player. I mean, gateway Expo is kind of the more aggressive style. I would say it's not really, the Forge build is usually a bit more stable, but the gateway style is kind of TT1 wants to get out there and do some harass, do some damage. And if you play it right as Protoss, you can get ahead, but if you play it wrong, you can fall behind. So again, not as stable as the Forge opening, but really sort of a confidence build for sure. And eOnzErG here opening with the 12 hatch, which actually is pretty good for the Protoss player. You really want to have the gateway opening versus a 12 hatch because you get a small window where you can actually snipe some drones. But here we see the Zealot rallied into the main. Oh my god, the biggest blunder I've ever seen in my entire life, guys. TT1 already crumbling under the pressure of facing the true Bonjour of foreign StarCraft, eOnzErG. And kind of a mistake, honestly. Now he's going to have these two Zealots come out. But again, you really want to get that first Zealot in before the pool finishes, or right as the pool finishes, and maybe get the first drone or two. But this time he's going to keep these two Zealots back. The Nexus on 23, so his third Zealot is coming still. And of course, if the Protoss can't get the Zealots in time into the Zerg base, then you kind of want to keep your Zealots back because, the Lings, you want to have increased Zealot count versus the Lings, basically. So here come the first two Zealots trying to harass this third base here. eOnzErG, he's going to be okay with letting this hatchery get hit a bit, but, he has to deal with these two Zealots at some point. Now, back at TT1's natural, we have his Forge coming down. So again, pretty stable opening here from TT1. Only 4 Zerglings, so really this is pretty good for eOnzErG. He's not taking any economic damage, but he really has to start dealing with these Zealots right away because, yeah, the Zealots are hitting the hatchery and that takes a while, but at some point they're going to kill it. We already have 4 Zerglings here, 6 Zerglings coming up, 2 more Zealots coming here. So again, the pressure is really on eOnzErG, and I don't even think he started his speed yet, so it's gonna be pretty hard defending these 4 zealots here. But again, we have the link count up here. He has to really identify that there's 4 zealots and continue to make those zerglings here, but I think his zerglings are a bit delayed here, so actually TT1 has a pretty decent timing here to really do some damage onto this 3rd hatchery. Gets a drone. The probe scouting out. The drones here aren't mining. eOnzErG looking a bit, a bit shaken by the zealot harass, but actually link speed finished, so perfect timing for the link speed. But this is a really good concave for the zealots, and the 4th zealot coming in, the lings are just dying. This is really good for TT1, even if he doesn't kill this hatchery. I mean, he forced so many lings. We can see like eOnzErG's barely has any economy at this point. And he did defend this well, but was it well enough? I mean, back at TT1's base, we have a cybernetics core coming up, another pylon. Just teching up to the Stargate at this point, and eOnzErG, no way in hell he's going to get a Spire out in time. So he's going to be forced into getting these Hydras. Now, that's going to be a pretty difficult spot, or, it's going to be a kind of a tense spot for TT1, because obviously he doesn't want to die to Hydras. But if you continue making Zealots here, you can kind of limit the amount of cannons that you need to make. But TT1, in sort of his signature style, actually opts to go for the Citadel first. And I think this is a pretty good decision, because at this point he should know that eOnzErG can't really afford to tech to lair, since he saw the link speed, and he even had a probe in the Zerg's base for a while. So he knows that there's no Spire coming, and at this point, you can only really expect the Zerg to go straight into Hydralisks, and if the Zerg's going straight into Hydralisks, I mean, you can get the Corsairs out early and do some damage that way, and that's a pretty good option. But alternatively, we can get our gateway count up really fast and play a very gateway-heavy style and just out-macro the Zerg. So, and that's typically TT1's style. I mean, he doesn't really... you don't usually see him go for Corsairs or things like that, but really it's up to eOnzErG to identify that there are not going to be Corsairs, because if you know that the Citadel is coming first before the Stargate, you kind of really want to invest into more Sunkens and play a bit more passively early on, because the Protoss production just kicks in faster than the Zerg production. As we see here, there's already 6 Zealots out. We're going to have Zealot speed soon, 3 more Zealots here, so 9 Zealots, and Zerg's still building up his economy, so we can't really just we just can't match the Protoss's pace at this point. But yeah, this is going to be a pretty big attack here from TT1. I mean, this could actually end the game if eOnzErG doesn't balance out his economy just right. He has to start making units, or he has to put down more Sunkens. One Sunken's not going to be enough. He has to start rallying these units to this 3rd base. I don't think he has any Hydralisk upgrades. The Zealots are actually still don't have Zealot speed, but it kicks in right at the correct time. The Zealots are coming in, a lot of lings though, and Eon correctly identifies that there's no +1 here. So actually, Zerglings are a great response to this early non-+1 Zealot push. And they're actually much cheaper than Hydralisks to build, so I should turn on the music actually. Again, 2 Zealots getting completely picked off here. TT1 going into 7 gateways here, so he's going to be pretty committed on the 2 base. Running some Zealots, trying to get some damage done, but eOnzErG playing very well. Kind of has all his holes plugged in, and I don't see TT1 doing any damage here whatsoever, so we're going to have to see what his follow-up is. Now, a small skirmish breaking out in between the 3rd and the natural of eOnzErG, and these lings are actually being donated. +1 actually finished, so this is an amazing fight for TT1. Now, TT1's obviously not going to kill any bases with this, but this is incredibly cost-efficient for TT1. just taking a look at the supplies here, I mean, 75 to 40 basically. This is really good for Protoss. eOnzErG kind of playing way too aggressively. Again, it's hard usually as a Zerg player when you play versus Stargate styles or Stargate openings. It's a completely different tempo from when Protoss chooses to go Citadel straight into Citadel, and I don't think eOnzErG really faces this too much on the ladder because most Protosses do favor that Stargate opening. But when you go when you open with this Citadel first, you actually get a lot of units out really quickly. So it's just a completely different tempo for the Zerg to play. But, okay, eOnzErG stabilized. He's getting his Hydra count up. And at this point, he can get some map control back. But again, still no lair. We're actually not on lair. Our economy is kind of crippled. This natural drone saturation is not that good. And the Protoss has high Templar here. So, and going up to 8 gates. So again, a very power 2 base play, but he doesn't have any lurkers to worry about. So actually this looks pretty scary for eOnzErG. Now I don't know if TT1 is going to be able to break this 3rd base. It's kind of hard to win the game outright as Protoss in this position. I'm assuming we're going to see him use his production off 2 base to secure his 3rd base, but talking about that later. Here comes a big storm onto the Hydralisk. Good micro from eOnzErG though. Another great storm. Oh my god, okay, that storm kind of whiffed, but this is still a decent fight. No, it's not. eOnzErG completely obliterating the Protoss army, actually. Just those storms did not connect well enough. Jesus. And I was talking about how this looks pretty bad for eOnzErG, but that fight from TT1 was not the best engagement. And his battle micro a bit off there. I mean, you can't really be missing those storms. And with that fight won, I mean, eOnzErG is going to feel pretty good about taking a 4th base here. And Protoss lost his entire army, so taking the 3rd is going to be quite a bit delayed. Observatory coming up here. But again, this is a huge setback for the Protoss player. He needs to rebuild his army in order to take his 3rd. And that's going to take a while. But the Zerg got so much breathing room out of that battle that he can start taking his 4th. So, again, eOnzErG kind of pulling ahead here. Finally, he can get his lair tech in. Lurker's probably researching. We're going to see a Spire come down at some point to counter the possible shuttle harass. TT1 with a 2nd forge off 2 base. Trying to take his 3rd here. He's going to be able... Okay, eOnzErG gets a cancel on that, which is really good. But I think TT1's actually going to be able to take this 3rd base at some point. But again, heading into the mid-late game, I'm really liking Zerg's position. His tempo on the bases here far surpasses that of Protoss's. By the time Protoss saturates this 3rd base, I mean, Zerg's going to have a fully saturated 4 base. 4 bases probably, so. But again, these battles are really what decide the pace of the game. One storm, 2 good storms can really turn the entire game around. But Protoss, after that sort of early defeat out on the map, it's kind of scary to move out because you just, you're not too sure where you're at. You don't want to get overwhelmed by the Zerg production. But I think at this point, Protoss is kind of feeling that he has a decent amount of units that he can push out here and sort of get some map priority. But eOnzErG kind of very well abusing the architecture of the map. He has these overlords just spotting everywhere, so he kind of has a general idea of where the Protoss army is. And a nice attack here with these 10 Hydralisks, just sort of trimming the Protoss forces. I mean, oh my god, he got a full Templar energy. A full energy Templar is what I meant to say. So really good guerrilla tactics, and here eOnzErG correctly identifies, okay, we're getting into the stage of PvZ where the Protoss army is getting pretty big, the ball is getting pretty big, which means that it becomes extremely cost efficient and it's hard to take open map fights against Protoss. So as Zerg, what you want to do at this point is just retreat back, and defend your bases with lurkers. Get some good positions with the lurkers, and I'm really liking how eOnzErG's playing this. Securing the main high ground for his base, but again, some Hydralisks getting picked off. There's no way TT1's going to take this fight. Nice storms, though. Good storm. TT1's going to try and run up to this top right base, but as soon as he sees those lurkers, he's going to know that it's a bad idea. Again, a nice storm, but TT1's not really in a good... Well, okay, these Hydralisks need to get out of here. So again, TT1 probably feeling a bit uncomfortable here. He knows the Zerg's on 4 base. Likely to be getting Hive anytime soon, but actually the Hive timing is kind of delayed here. So that's the one saving grace for TT1. No Defilers in sight, no Adrenal Gland in sight, and at this point Protoss is just trying to poke around the map and find an opening. But I think eOnzErG's maneuvering really well here. He's not going to give him any sort of positional advantage. Lurker's already burrowing here. The storms are really going to decide this, but that storm's not too good. And Protoss really, TT1's attacking here, it's looking okay, but these lurkers are going to start doing their damage. And as soon as these zealots evaporate, you know, that being said, TT1 gets a hold of this high ground here, but the reinforcements from the Zerg army are really what might clean this up. So I think Protoss is going to have to pull back here and regroup, get another ball going. eOnzErG already flanking though. And these Hydras coming in just completely evaporating the blue goo on the ground. I mean, I don't know what else to say. This is a complete massacre. These goons are just getting destroyed. But TT1's reinforcements arriving in time. But again, these are really, really good trades for the Zerg. And the Hive's coming down here. So, again, increasingly, this game's looking very good for eOnzErG. TT1's going to have to pull back at some point and think about taking a fourth and taking this to the late game, because I don't actually think that he can end the game. Needs to change his mindset and get into the late game here. And actually, this map is, honestly, on second thought, I think this map is pretty decent for Zerg, actually. The only expansions that you have to take are high ground expansions. And high ground expansions are pretty easy to defend as Zerg. So this is a really good position for eOnzErG. Really, I really like this position for eOnzErG. TT1, like, you know, he really need, like, he's in panic mode, I think. He understands he's a bit behind. And he's trying to just macro his heart out here, but it's just like the Zerg economy is just way, way, way too strong right now. Way too strong. So eOnzErG pushing back TT1. And at this point, Zerg just has such a commanding map control that I think he might actually start containing the Protoss. But no lurkers are reinforcing this, so hope is not lost for the Protoss player here. Really needs to get some good storms off. And again, TT1's army is just a bit too late to the fight. These Zealots engaging in the front, but getting completely melted by the Hydralisks. A good number of Dragoons here, but again, just too many Zerg units and not enough Storm for Protoss. I don't know, this looks really, really bad for TT1. I think he's going to clean this up. But the question is, what does he do now? Where is his fourth base going to be? The problem with taking this bottom left base as Protoss is that it'll kind of force our army to position on this side of the map, on the bottom left side of the map, which is kind of a more passive approach to the game, and you're giving the Zerg a lot of breathing space. I would prefer to take this middle right base just so we can have our army out on the map and defending our base at the same time. But eOnzErG already has a couple units here. It's going to take a while for TT1 to take his fourth base. Upgrades are still pretty good for Protoss. But at this point, crackling is kicking in. And the production, just look at this macro, look at this economy from the Zerg player. It's just really, really strong right now. And Zerg just doesn't care about losing some of these units. Triple Evo. No Defiler Mountain just yet, and that's what I would really want to see from eOnzErG. Maybe getting a bit too confident here. I mean, you really need to get that Defiler at some point. No matter how how far ahead you are as Protoss or as Zerg, if the Protoss has enough time to build up his army, he can start being cost efficient again. But Greats around here by the links, just completely destroying these goons. Good micro by TT1, pulling back here, and again just Brown all over the map. I mean, I don't know what else to say. 2 lurkers here, denying this 4th base from TT1. Absolutely amazing multitask by eOnzErG here. And TT1 just macroing his little heart out, but you know, it doesn't matter if you hit those cycles if you just don't have enough gateways to make units to outproduce the Zerg player. So again, no Defiler Mound. But the supplies are just so heavily in favor of Zerg, and at this point, TT1, his main is mined out, his natural is mined out, really only off 1 base, and the Zerg still has, I mean, for all intents and purposes, Zerg's going to be on 5 base versus 1 base, so I don't really see a way back into this game for TT1, honestly. I mean, unless eOnzErG just disconnects or something, and then we go to the official ruling by Gypsy, the referee himself, and, you know, if I had a stroke, I would tell these guys to replay this game, but honestly, eOnzErG just in a completely commanding position. Just gonna keep making units here. Again, eOnzErG just doesn't even care, man. I don't need a Hive Tech, I don't need Ultralisks, I don't need Defiler Mounds. I just need that Hive Tech for the 3/3 upgrades and the Cracklings. TT1 trying to push out here, really good storms onto the Lurker Eggs. This is the best timing he could have hoped for right before the Lurkers hatch, but now they finished morphing, and eOnzErG's just completely eradicating the Protoss scum off the face of this planet. And GG. Wow. What a game, guys. What a game. That was pretty rough, I'm not gonna lie. Let me just gotta change this real quick here. So players are now going to go into the second game, which is going to be on Fighting Spirit. And honestly guys, man, I feel like TT1 just got dumpstered that game. He had a, you know, it was actually going pretty well up until, I would say, that middle fight, where he kind of missed, you know, he whiffed a couple storms, and Zerg just got tempo, and eOnzErG got his 4th base up, and just kept making units. Alright, going into game number 2 on Fighting Spirit. Just gonna change the score here, guys. All the graphics, by the way, today, made by yours truly. You know, I put a lot of oh Jesus, I put a lot of effort into this, into these graphics. I hope you guys appreciate it. I also dressed up nicely, you know. Yeah, just trying my best out here. But anyway, so Fighting Spirit, top left corner, we have the one and only, the Canadian Protoss player, the Slayer from the North Pole, or something, TT1. And on the bottom left, we have the one and only eOnzErG. I couldn't come up with anything else to say about that, but... So, I'm kind of curious to see here if TT1's going to go for that gateway opening now. You know, when you lose a game, you kind of start losing confidence in the build that you just used. But, that being said, actually the gateway opening really did a lot of damage early on in that last game. So, I would feel pretty good about going gateway again. But at the same time, now that the Zerg player knows that you can open gateway, chances are they're going to go for an overpool. So, but actually, okay, TT1 here delaying his forge a bit now. Hopefully this is going to be a forge. TT1 usually plays very safe, so I would be surprised if he went straight for Nexus. And this forge is going to be timed out just perfectly for this overpool. So about as good of an opening as you can hope for as the Protoss player. No scouting done whatsoever, so of course if Zerg was tight too, this game would be over already. The 5-pool would be killing TT1 without a doubt, but anyway. Nexus going down on 13, and just look at this TT1, just perfectly plans out his build. Now he's going to go for the gateway here, which is a bit greedy. Now this is pretty greedy. We're going to have to see if Zerg actually chooses to go for... Okay, never mind, I lied. I lied, guys. False alarm. Goes for the cannon. TT1 again just playing that solid game, and eOnzErG not shying away from the macro games. I'm really liking what I'm seeing from both players. Just both players are going to be playing some very confident StarCraft today, guys. It's pretty awesome to see. eOnzErG actually got his gas really early, so I'm going to be interested in what that's for. Probably just his standard build, but I find like it is a bit early. So wouldn't be surprised if we see something weird, though. Versus Forge openings, as opposed to Gateway openings, it's kind of much easier to do some early Hydralisk plays to force out those cannons and slow the Protoss infrastructure down. So we might see that from eOnzErG. Let's see what he gets with his first 100 gas. Looks like it's going to be a lair. And okay, so completely standard play from both players. eOnzErG not going to go for that Hydralisk then. And TT1 here probably doesn't even have to get a Zealot. He's going to get a Cyber Core right away. And both players just powering their tech, powering their economy. Actually, he did go for a Zealot. I was going to say this core is actually a bit slow. And actually, that gas was so fast that the Zerg's lair is way outpacing the cybernetics core of the Protoss. So, if TT1 chooses to go for a Stargate, the Corsair is not going to have a lot of time to kill Overlords. Or to do much scouting for that matter. And at this point, Mulisks are a real threat. A real possibility. But as long as this probe is alive in the Zerg base, you can correctly identify that there's 2 gas or not as Protoss, then you'll know whether or not to prepare for Spire play. Again, the Zealot coming in, doing some good harassment. TT1 going for a second gas, so he's going to be playing a very tech-heavy build. Actually, again, opting to skip the Stargate, going straight for the Citadel. Now, usually when you go for these... Citadel openings versus a lair, you're kind of forced into getting Dark Archons. Because you need some way of protecting your High Templars in your push. And if you don't have Corsairs to fend off Mutalisks, you really need that Maelstrom. And I know TT1's just a fan in general of the Dark Archon. But, that being said, the Dark Archon's quite Anyway, I'm talking a lot about the Dark Archon, because I'm pretty convinced we're going to see a Dark Archon. But we might not, so we'll save that until later. +1 started for the Protoss player. Second gateway coming, probably going to add third and fourth gateways here. Spire's almost complete. We don't see a second gas from eOnzErG. Some gas built up though, so we could see 5 Mulisks come out. And again, eOnzErG doesn't see any Corsairs, but I don't think Mulisks are going to be the choice here, at least not right away. Hydrogen coming down with the Evo chamber, nice SimCity at both bases. So again, this game is about as standard as it can get, although I would say TT1's build's a bit more off meta, because we don't have those that Stargate. But like I was saying in the past game, because we didn't go for this Stargate, we're gonna get a ground army up much faster. Dark Templar coming out here. Gonna be interested to see if these Dark Templars go out on the map to try and harass anything, or if they're just gonna morph into Dark Archons. Now the problem with just opening Dark Templar like this is you don't really have Corsairs to support them, so you know, the Zerg would really have to be unprepared to take damage at this point. But they're gonna poke in here. Okay, this Dark Templar is gonna actually spot these Mulisks, so gonna pull that back. Already has an Archon morphed. Cannon's already warped in. But again, yeah, here's a Dark Archon. Kind of the only option at this point for Protoss. Because yeah, you could have an Archon and you can have cannons warped in, but the Mulisk can just dance around all of your things, especially when you don't have Corsairs, so you really need a Dark Archon to hold them in place. So I don't know if eOnzErG saw that Dark Archon, but okay, one Mulisk flying through here. Only really got 4 Mulisks, so that's actually kind of weird. I don't really think these Mulisks are gonna do anything, so it's actually just 400 gas, 400 minerals, completely dumpstered. And at this point, if I'm TT1, I'm liking my position. We forced a couple of Mulisks that aren't really doing anything. That's definitely gonna delay lurkers. It's gonna delay the upgrades, or it's gonna delay the Zerg army. But in any case, the Zerg army will suffer. So we have a pretty good opening here as Protoss to get map priority and secure our third base. And maybe even threaten to kill the third base of the Zerg. Again, those Mutalisks, we can see the 6th hatchery here is basically delayed because of those Mutalisks. So, but again, kind of annoying. They're just going to sit there and spot. Robo coming down for our Protoss player. Again, if you're going to make these Mutalisks, you might as well commit to them, but they're not really going to do much. This Dark Archon, at this point, has done its job. Ooh, we're actually making more Mutalisks here. Now, I think eOnzErG's not too sure about how to approach this, because you want to make Mutalisks to snipe these High Templar, but at the same time, there's already a Dark Archon, and if all your Mutalisks get Maelstrom, they're basically gone. Now, we only have one Archon protecting these Templar, and okay, this is kind of awkward. TT1 losing a bit of focus here, and this Dark Archon is going to try and get sniped here. eOnzErG knows that if he picks off this Dark Archon, his Mutalisks have free reign over the High Templar. And again, it's just one Mutalisk, guys! Our Dragoons are not yet ready. TT1 kind of just struggling a bit. But still, good position here on the map for Protoss. Really, he has to do something though, like either take your third base or attack. The more time you give the Zerg, the better it is. Zerg's gonna get lurkers up and be completely impregnable. Here comes eOnzErG with a counterattack, though, with the Mulisks. This is an amazing... This is exactly what you want to do against a Protoss player that didn't go Corsairs and has no map control. You want to play these guerrilla tactics with the Mutas. I mean, the Mutas can be all over the map. That's why usually you see Protoss players opening with Corsairs, because Mutas can be such a... just so annoying. Even if you have this Dark Archon, I mean, what's it going to do? Okay, I like how eOnzErG just completely split up his Mutalisks. But actually, okay, I say all of that, but I think that was a pretty good trade for TT1. We lost some mining time, but we killed basically 9 Mutalisks. I mean, we neutralized like 9 or 10 Mutalisks here. So our ball is going to be a bit uncontested. There's no way to snipe these High Templar. But we only really have 2 High Templar here, and that's not a lot of Psystorm. TT1 he's looking just a bit all over the place. You really want to just gather and clump up your army and keep it together as Protoss versus Zerg, at least. And here, just the Mutalisks are causing so much trouble. And he lost 2 full energy Templar. Oh my god, that is terrible. That is no bueno, friendos. No bueno whatsoever. eOnzErG doesn't even care about getting lurkers. Look, he's still getting these mutas. He doesn't give a shit about a Dark Archon, guys. And this is going to be so scary for Protoss to hold. We don't even need lurkers here. Now we have 1 Templar with 3 storms. I mean 2 actually. I don't know how to count. So we only have 2 storms here against mass Hydras. Guys, this is not looking good for TT1. TT1, kind of the one silver lining here is that TT1 securing his 3rd base and Zerg just not on 4 bases at all. But TT1, does he know this? Does he know that eOnzErG is not committed to 4th base? eOnzErG here, he's just massing. He doesn't care about his economy. He's just really going to try and just bust the Protoss. But is that really the play on this map? Now again, we're losing High Templar left, right, and center. That Dark Archon just didn't really do much. eOnzErG just doesn't even give a shit. These Mutalisks are really just winning him the game. And okay, eOnzErG knows at this point that he's distracting TT1 with these Mutalisks, and he's just going to rally all his Hydralisks to the Protoss' front base. And good luck holding this one off with no High Templar. Hydralisks just completely mowing down these Zealots. They kind of get on top of this first layer of Hydralisks, but again, just too much DPS coming out of the Hydras. Now, TT1 really needs to use this bridge to his advantage, but with no Storm, I have no idea how he's going to hold against this flood of Hydralisks. Again, crossing this bridge, this is the optimal time to hold as Protoss, but what are you going to do? You can't send these Zealots in. You have to really hold only with your Dragoons, because the Zealots coming in are going to get hit by all the Hydralisks in the back. But again, this is about as good of an engagement it's going to be for Protoss, and he's still getting melted. He's going to try and rally more Zealots in, but eOnzErG just pushing through here. Now, of course, if this attack doesn't work for eOnzErG, Protoss is going to be in an amazing spot, but I can't imagine this being stopped. eOnzErG, he's going to just rally and keep producing units here. We have no Kaydarin, whatever, energy upgrade for the High Templar, so no Storm available, and eOnzErG successfully pushed across the bridge, killed these Templar here, and again, looks kind of like a hopeless game here from TT1, and he GG's out. Guerrilla tactics, that's funny as fuck. Wow, guys. I did not expect that. Not looking too good here for TT1, our resident Protoss hope. Now, let's hope he can bounce back, but honestly, after a game like that, it's gonna be hard to keep your confidence up. You know, like, I know that he uses this Dark Archon build all the time. One sec, I have to somehow host this map. So like I was saying, he uses this Dark Archon build all the time, and I think he really thinks it's just solid, it's good. And honestly, when you get a loss like that using your main build, it can really hurt your confidence. So I'm curious to see if TT1 can like sort of compose, you know, take a step back, take a couple deep breaths in, you know what I mean? Some yoga breaths that he's been doing, and just clear his mind and bounce back in this game 3 on Neo Sylphid. We're getting into the game, boys and girls. Let me just change the score here again. I'm my own producer. Thank you, MS Paint. Thank you, Stuff. Trying my best here. Anyway, so game 3 on Sylphid. Spawning here in the 12 o'clock, we have eOnzErG as a teal Zerg, and on the bottom right, TT1 as the purple Protoss. Now let's hope that TT1 composes himself, bounces back from that last game, and wins here. You know, I'd love to have more than 3 games, but you know, sometimes that's just how the cookie crumbles. Now Sylphid, I like this map for Zerg for sure in this matchup. Just so many bases to take, and they're all high ground, except these mineral only bases. But you don't really want to take these because they don't have gas as Zerg. But everything else, like this is high ground. Now, of course, your main base and your natural are low ground, but yeah, you know, I don't know. I just I think Protoss vs Zerg is just kind of a difficult matchup in general, so. TT1 here opening with a gateway. Probably not too happy about how last game went. Deciding to do a different build here. And again, in the first game, the gateway opening was actually really good. It was really strong. Did a lot of damage. So if he can replicate what he did in game 1 and just have a bit better battle micro, then I can see this going his way. But eOnzErG opening with an overpool, so he's going to be completely safe to these Zealots. Now, okay, when you open Gateway first versus a 12 hatch, yeah, you can get in and get some drone kills. But it's very easy for the Zerg to sort of outproduce you, to outproduce the Protoss after that initial, you know, 1 or 2 Zealots, because the second hatchery kicks in so fast. But when you go overpool, it's actually harder to, you know, you can't really outproduce the Protoss in the same way. So if the Protoss keeps investing into Zealots, like non-stop Zealots, like doesn't cut Zealots, you know, goes 1, 2, 3, 4. For the most part, the Zerg has to keep up his Zergling production as well. So, in a sense, Protoss is indirectly controlling Zerg's economy. But at this point, I think, okay, TT1 chose to only go for the 2 Zealots, probably building his 3rd Zealot here. You really want to keep up Zealot production against an overpull first. And eOnzErG just straight into this 3rd hatch, no fear. Now, if TT1 scouts this 3rd hatch, I'm going to think that he's going to push out as soon as possible, because when the Zerg invests into that 3rd hatch really fast like that, you know that they won't have, they can't possibly have enough links to just overrun your Zealots. But okay, Forge coming down here. So actually, TT1 playing very conservatively. Fourth Zealot, he's gonna push out soon at some point here, maybe with the next Zealot. Nope. Okay, here comes the push. Now it's up to eOnzErG to correctly balance his economy so that he can deal with this initial push out. Protoss is probably gonna try and tech behind this, but again, these gateway first openings are not as stable as Forge first openings, and we'll see it here. Now, if TT1 does, it depends on how this initial fight trades for both players. If one player wins heavily, then they're really far ahead. If you know, so at the game can be decided right now. Looks like eOnzErG just has a really good economy now. Gonna barely defend with these Lings, I think, though. Really good surround here from the Zerglings, but TT1 microing as well as he can. These drones are getting drilled so masterfully, though, completely bugging out these Zealots, but we got a drone kill there, and the Zealots, they decently traded against the Lings, and again, more Lings in production, so actually I think that was a pretty even trade for both players, but again, this counterattack from eOnzErG with the Ling speed is really what's going to be scary for TT1. He has to plug in the hole, he has to not have holes basically at this point, or else he will lose the game. Again, I think eOnzErG just slightly overmade Lings, so TT1 in a favorable position. Cybercore almost done. We're going to have to see if he chooses to go for a Citadel. I just really think he will, because that's just how he plays. I've never seen TT1 go for any kind of Corsair build. Started +1 on his Forge, which is pretty indicative of the fact that he's probably going to plop down the Citadel. Prioritizing the gas onto the +1 is pretty indicative of how the Protoss wants to play, and here comes the Citadel. And again, eOnzErG, now usually against Gateway first, Zerg can't really reliably get up to Lair like they can against Forge, so you're usually forced into getting a Hydra Den and playing 5-hatch Hydra before Lair. And a lot of times, I'm still not too sure about this Citadel opening. Now, on the one hand, you do increase your production, as Protoss, you do get more units faster, which does, in a sense, counteract the eons or the Zerg's investment into production. But you lose that timing window where you can really do some serious damage with Corsairs, with tech units just in general. So kind of a trade-off there. But TT1 just he really favors these production-heavy builds, basically the production-heavy variations. But like we saw in game 2, I mean, when you don't go when you don't open with a Stargate, it's really easy to get abused by Mutalisks, So we'll have to see here if eOnzErG gets a Spire anytime soon, or just goes into Lurkers. But okay, eOnzErG, he sees the big amount of Zealots, so he kind of knows what's going on, and again, timing-wise, this is a lot of Zealots for this stage in the game. So really, a Zerg that's on their game will identify, okay, there's no way Protoss can have this many Zealots at this point without having invested into gateways really early on. So he should know what's going on. But again, that's easier said than done. Here comes the big push out from Protoss. +1's not going to be done in time for this attack, but we have no Sunkens, and I don't think eOnzErG has the time to defend this with pure Hydra. Although that being said, he does have a decent amount of units here, but this is going to be really crucial. This attack is definitely going to decide the game. Now, TT1 sniping the Evo chamber and running away. I don't know about that, but okay. It's not bad, but not the most crucial thing that the Protoss wants to do at this point. The upgrades don't matter that much. What matters is the fact that Zerg's going to have a huge economy. And huge production. And it's just so hard to match that as Protoss. But TT1 this time, already getting his Templar out. Hopefully he didn't forget Storm. And his Templar are going to have Storm just in time for these Hydralisks. But we only have 2 cannons here, so kind of a weak front. eOnzErG, again, he's going to be on these 3 bases for a bit. At this point, if any, if eOnzErG invested into another base, it would really cut into his unit production. And when you play this Hydralisk heavy style, sometimes you just really, the only option you have is to power off of 3 base. Just so you don't fall behind in production relative to the Protoss army. That being said, eOnzErG is going to take this mineral only. Interesting decision. Kind of easier to defend though. So I understand this decision. Probably upgrading lurkers at this point. And because eOnzErG took this 4th, we're most likely going to see him retreat and defend the bases that he does have right now. Meanwhile, TT1, again with this 2 base heavy style, is going to try and do some damage, but he needs to identify that this base is coming up. And again, when you don't go for Stargates, or a Stargate, you don't have this scouting. It's very hard to scout as Protoss. And you don't really know where you're at. Nice Storm there, catching some of these Hydras, saving that Templar, but this Templar gets sniped. Again, kind of... kind of rough for TT1. Now, okay, so eOnzErG actually gonna throw a curveball here at TT1, going for some drops. And this is going to be perfectly timed. And he has enough Hydras here to bait out the army from TT1. Now, is eOnzErG going to commit on this drop? Because the thing is, eOnzErG only has Hydras. If TT1 storms this correctly, he can completely demolish this army and kill at least 1 base of eOnzErG. But this really is on the Protoss to control perfectly. Oh my god, these Hydras are going to be clumped up here. And a Storm's going to completely obliterate this. Now, meanwhile, the drop's going to come into TT1's base. And oh my god, this is where the pressure is on for both players. TT1 has a real chance of just breaking this front, but I don't think he has enough Storms. And eOnzErG's drop is just completely going to destroy TT1's base. Again, this front, eOnzErG's probably going to barely survive. Meanwhile, TT1's base getting completely shattered. And I just don't know how TT1's going to defend this. He needs to time his defense with a production cycle. Meanwhile, still, eOnzErG lost all his drones at his natural. So maybe not all hope is lost. If we look at the supplies, this isn't too bad for Protoss. But he really needs to save this base. Nice Storm. Oh my god, that was a clutch Storm. And TT1 still has a pretty decent force here at eOnzErG's natural, but TT1 lost his main Nexus. And with that, I just don't see, even if TT1 kills these hatcheries, I don't see how Protoss wins from here. eOnzErG gonna slowly whittle down the remaining Protoss forces here. And TT1 just has no standing army at his base, so I think this is over, guys. TT1 is gonna fight until the end, but there's just no way out of this one. Archon morphing in. GG, well played. Okay, guys. And that's it. That's it. 03, 3-0, the great eOnzErG, current Bonjour, completely obliterated TT1. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just speechless, guys. It was exciting and not exciting. But, that's just how it goes sometimes, eOnzErG's an incredibly strong player, and TT1 just, TT1's an immensely talented player, but I just, it's hard. Like, we have eOnzErG who practices regularly, and TT1 who plays kind of sporadically. Practice trumps all, right, guys? So, kind of not the most surprising result, but we still saw some decent games. I think that first game could have went way better for TT1. I really think he had like amazing chances in that first game, and after that, I think that second game was kind of rough. I'm not too sure. I'm not too convinced about that Dark Archon build, and that third game again, kind of close to be honest. It's just ZVP can be so snowbally at times, and the Protoss really needs to have perfect battle micro to storm stuff and I don't know, not get run over. And storms are always a matter of inches. But anyway, that's it. I mean, I don't know. I don't have anything else, guys. That was it.